Hello friends, today we'll be reviewing Kings of Paradise by Richard Nell. Kings of Paradise is the first entry in the Sand and Ash trilogy and was published in 2017. I usually start these reviews with a synopsis, but this time I'm going to go ahead and skip the synopsis and I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go and read it. I suggest going into this one blind and just knowing that it's a grimdark fantasy novel. So let's start off with what I liked. The story moves smoothly between the different points of view, and each character has its own distinct voice and background. The characters in the story make some really good and really awful decisions, and because you're invested in the characters, you have sympathy for them. And even when they do awful things or make mistakes, you still want to root for them, and you wonder why they're making those decisions instead of disliking them. And that investment in the characters carries on throughout the book. This world is dark and unforgiving. There's a few times in this book when you see worlds are going to collide. You see things that are lining up and you see disaster coming for different sets of characters. And you think, yeah, this is being set up, but there's no way this is going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's going to come in and save these characters or save this person, and these things won't really happen, and they do happen. There are no punches pulled. Things happen in this book that made me stop and say, no way, this is going to happen. And then it happened, and I was really surprised, but I loved it. And that's established pretty early on. You know that the rules in this world are set, and it is not that type of story where something's going to come in and save the character that you've grown to love or the character that you're just getting to know. And it's established pretty early on that it's that kind of book and that kind of story, that nobody's safe and these things can and will happen. Because this world is so dark and unforgiving, there are some really great villains in this book, and they thrive in this kind of world. The characters have a really nice arc through the book. As they get older and you take this journey with them, you feel the weight of their decisions. And as they get older, they reflect back upon their younger years, and they start to realize how selfish or naive or immature they were as they made decisions as they were younger. And it makes you reflect back in your own life and think back to your younger years and how you used to think that either a person or something meant the world to you and you would do anything for it. And as you get older and you gain this perspective, you realize how selfish or naive you were in your younger years. The characters, just like ourselves, they grow and they learn, and that's very well represented here. Because the book has different points of view, the book goes from a really violent story to almost a love story, to a coming-of-age story, to a fantasy, and it does so really seamlessly. And it sounds jarring, but it's really not. It's really well done. There's a subtle mention of a smell in this book that takes the character back to a previous memory in their younger years, and I've never had a book describe that feeling so well. It's funny how scents can take you back into distant memories and take you back to remind you of things that happened or people. So let's get into what I didn't like. I'm fairly new to reading fantasy books, so because of that, sometimes I struggle with the different names and I have to look back and find out which character is which. So that's more to do with my reading habits than the book. There are just a couple of times in this book when you start to wonder, where is the story going? Why am I learning about this character? What is this plot thread? But that may be explained in later books. I would have liked just a little bit more world building, but with the characters being so strong, it didn't bother me too much. Of course, there's no spoilers here, but there's a character that learns a skill that seems a little faster than I would have expected it to be. So now for my conclusion and rating. I've mentioned this before, but I don't like coming-of-age stories. They don't appeal to me, I don't enjoy them, I've never really been a fan of them. All I really knew about Kings of Paradise before I went into it is that it was dark and unforgiving. So I was really surprised as I went through the book how much I love the coming-of-age story aspects. I love the journey these characters take, I love that they reflect back on their lives, I loved getting to know these characters while they were young, getting to know their backstories and seeing what they had been through their life. And that informed us on why they make the decisions they make, why they think the way they do, and what makes them tick. This book is 599 pages long, and it felt like half that because it was so enjoyable. This world is a dark and dangerous place, and you get the feeling that there may not be a happy ending. There aren't many pulled punches, and I love that about this book. Even as these characters do awful and violent things, you still care about them because you're invested in them from the beginning, and you know what they've been through. Now I can also see why this book won't be for everyone, because of the violence and the dark nature, but I loved every minute of it. It's already near the top of my list for the best books I've read, and it's easily in contention for the top 2 books of the year for me, and it's only March. I think it goes without saying by now that I will be continuing this series, and my books are already on their way from Amazon. This book is also free on Kindle Unlimited right now, so be sure and check that out. I'm going to rate this book 4.5 boys playing in a grown-up world out of 5. There's just a couple of plot threads and a couple of characters that left me scratching my head. I wondered where it's going, but I'm guessing that'll be tied up in the rest of the series, and if it is, this book is easily a 5 out of 5. It is an awesome book. If you love grimdark, if you love fantasy and don't mind the violence, check this book out. It is fantastic. So have you read Kings of Paradise? If you have, let me know what you think. What would you rate it? As always, thank you for watching my review. I hope it was helpful, and I will talk to you soon.